and let's talk about ITD Cementation's performance. We've got Prasad Patwardhan, the CFO, joining in on the show right now. Prasad, hi, good to have you on the show. Your revenue growth has declined this quarter. Tell me what was the reason behind that, and then what is it that you're targeting for the full year and the next one?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your show. There's not a decline, but our revenue on a year-on-year basis has grown by about 12-13%. And on a quarter-on-quarter basis, it's about 11% growth. So, I mean, the growth is there. Of course, for the last 2-3 years, we have been growing at about 30-40%. So, we are seeing some stability coming into our growth pattern, but we are still very confident of growing our revenue by 15 odd percent in the current year. And looking at the order book and the pipeline, I'm sure our performance and growth will come back in the next year and going forward.
Has changed for IDT cementation after the change of guard, and this is something which every shareholders in a sense would like to understand, that are you in the process of migration? Has the transformation already changed? Has additional business started coming from the Adani group? What has changed? Because life for shareholders has changed, but internally what has changed? And you can be frank about this answer.
There has been no change right now. In fact, the transaction has not been concluded as of now. We are expecting that to happen very shortly now, maybe in the next month or so. So as of now, it's business as usual for us. We have been doing a lot of work for the Adani Group earlier, and we continue to do that. So they are one of our preferred customers as of now. There's a large order backlog that we have from there on their projects as well. So as of now, nothing has changed. But going forward, yes, once the transaction gets concluded, we'll see how things go. And maybe at that point of time, I'll be able to speak more on this.
Understand from you is that once the entire transition is at play, being a Adani Group company, would you get additional orders from the Adani Group? Because Adani Group is a group which essentially is a large industrial group. They've got ongoing capex, multi-billion capex, which is happening in all streams. So by nomination, are you likely to get a land share from Adani Group? Are you likely to gain and grow much more because of this transition? I mean, that's a simple question.
Well, that's correct. That is likely to happen. Adani Group has a large capex plan, not just for the next year, but going forward for the next few years. So there are certain areas of expertise where we can bring our expertise to the table and help the group in executing the projects for them. But at the same time, we will also be focusing on projects outside the group. So it is going to be a mix of both internal projects of the Adani Group as well as projects that we do outside, not just in India, but overseas as well.
Good morning, Mr. Patwardhan. This is Shrishti also joining in. When we look at your clientele, now 50% of the contribution is coming in from the government, while 42 is from the private side. But give us a sense that in Q3, how this picture has changed, and given the budget announcement as well, what is the outlook? How your mix is expected to change going ahead?
Well, today we have private clients like, of course, Adani Group is one of them. We have ArcelorMittal. We are doing work for JSW. So private clients today contribute to about in Q3 they have contributed about 40-45% to our revenue. The budget has just been announced, so I mean it's difficult to predict how it will impact us. But there is stability and there's focus on infrastructure development from the government's perspective. So I'm sure that will help us in getting more work. More infrastructure projects will be coming up for tendering, and of course we will participate in them.
That there is a drop in government spending, it is visible, and all the manufacturing companies and all the construction companies are openly admitting it. 50% of your business is coming from the government. What are the chances that this will pick up, where sequentially the government business, which had slowed down because of election compulsions, that will start normalizing? And if that normalizes, are we in for a bumper recovery quarter on quarter for you?
Well, in the infra space, I don't see a bumper recovery, but gradually things will improve. The focus is there on infrastructure. I mean, we can say whatever regarding the allocation in the budget, but the focus of the government continues to be on infrastructure development. And if we see the private capex also, private capex also coming in, we are bound to see, a lot of orders coming up, not just from the government, but from the private space as well.
But then, looking at your earlier guidance, then in the second half of this fiscal, you expected an additional order win of around 5 to 6,000 crore rupees, and we believe that it's more than 4,000 crore you have already achieved in terms of the order inflow in the quarter gone by. But going ahead in Q4, can we expect similar kind of a number? That means that you might exceed your earlier guidance?
Well, we are expecting a few bids to open up in the next, 15 days or 1 month or so. So yes, there is a very strong possibility that we'll see some more order inflows before the end of this quarter. It will be difficult to quantify that number at this stage, but we are looking at various opportunities, and we are pretty hopeful of getting more orders before the end of this quarter.
Revenue growth, and I'm simply trying to connect it for our viewers here so that they can correlate with it. And let's look at the revenue growth. 4 quarters ago, it was 50%. So everyone would say, okay, the company is growing at 51%. That's a great number. Now the growth has become 11%. Now everyone is saying 50% growth, 10% growth ho gayi hai. So what is the right way of looking at your business? It's a cyclical business, and the 11% growth is an aberration, it will come back, or that 50% was an aberration, it was never supposed to sustain.
Well, 50% growth we saw, 40-50% growth on a relatively smaller base. And even at that point of time, we had been indicating that, maintaining a 40-50% growth in revenue over a long period of time, may be a bit difficult. And that is what we are seeing playing out. Our growth has moderated to about, 13-14%. But, maybe it's slightly on the lower side. Maybe next year onwards, we may see again bounce back to maybe 20-25% growth. 50%, we need to wait and see. I would not comment on that at this stage. But certainly the growth next year, we expect it to be much higher than what we have seen in the current year.
Mr. Patwardhan, but give us a sense on your margins as well, because all in all, what we are seeing is that you have been maintaining that range of 9 to 10% margin. But now that the growth visibility is looking strong, you are hopeful for getting more orders. Does that mean that you will exceed that 10% mark in terms of your margin?
Well, there is a very good possibility of exceeding, and our endeavor has been to improve on our margins, and we'll see that playing out. It may not really, you may not see it, in every quarter, but as time goes by on an year-on-year basis, we'll definitely see an improvement in our margins.
Good to hear that, and good to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.